Today's star guest isn't just your average guy. He plays the role of Paddy Quinn on Hell on Wheels alongside Anson Mount. But his acting career didn't start out so easy. After the tragic loss of his wife, he realized how short life could be, which encouraged him to pursue his lifelong dream of acting, and is now currently working on season 4 of Hell on Wheels. Here is Kevin Davey. So you're originally from Cornwall. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was actually born just outside of London in Kent. My dad kind of walked out on my mum and me and my brother when I was a kid. So my mum decided to have a clean break and a fresh start, and we moved down to Cornwall, which is beautiful, beautiful area right down in the southwest peninsula of England. And it was a very good upbringing, but I'd always loved the North American lifestyle. So back in 2006, myself, my wife and the kids decided to make the move, and we came over here and started our new lives.
So how come you didn't pursue acting in Cornwall?
Number of reasons. I mean, first of all, there weren't the same opportunities down there. Cornwall is probably about 4 or 5 hours away from London. At the time, it would have been a case of moving to London, going to RADA, you know, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, spending thousands and thousands of pounds, and then maybe winning yourself a small stage role at some point. However, I mean, when my wife was still alive, I mean, you know, we had a really good relationship, we had a really strong friendship, and life, I was content with life. And as you said in the intro, it wasn't until after the death of my wife that it really brought home to me that our time here is limited. If you have got a dream, it's a sin not to chase it. So after I lost my wife, I reevaluated. You know, I didn't want to be on my deathbed looking back thinking, I wish I'd tried. So I thought, you know, I've got to take action. So once here, and once I realised that there were more opportunities here, I got myself an agent and started putting myself out there.
Excellent. So you moved here in 2006.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit of how, like, what happened when you first moved here? Like, everything was so different, and.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, you know, I was raised with American TV shows, American movies, that kind of thing. I always, as I say, I always liked the North American lifestyle. Didn't necessarily want to live in the States, so Canada was always my first choice. And we instantly fell in love with the place. We fell in love with the people, the lifestyle, the standard of living. My son has cerebral palsy, he's in a wheelchair, and it is so much easier country for him to be raised in here than it was in England, because in England it was so difficult to get him into shops or get him into public buildings or get him on public transport, whereas here he can access any of that. Canada seems to take everyone in mind, whereas England kind of just seemed to take the majority in mind, you know. This is a better lifestyle for me and my kids.
Is there a particular reason you moved to Calgary rather than any other Canadian city?
I used to be a part of this website called BritishExpats.com, and they've got forums set up for anywhere in the world that there's an expat community. They've got huge forums for Canada because there are so many Brits living here. We're part of the same Commonwealth. I put the question out there, you know, where should we settle in Canada? And I put forward my criteria that we wanted to be near the mountains. We wanted good summers, but we did want snowy winters. We didn't want ridiculous cold. We wanted quite close proximity to the States. And also things that also I had to bear in mind was the employment situation, the cost of housing, that kind of thing. It all came into play, but we settled on Calgary because of a number of reasons. As I say, the summers, the snow in winter, the proximity to the mountains, the proximity to the States. Children's Hospital was a very big deciding factor because, as I say, my son's in a wheelchair and we needed to know that he would get good care. And we just fell in love with Calgary instantly.
When you came to Calgary, I know it was only about 18 months until you, till like one of the most tragic things that happened to you.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that?
Well, at the time, you know, I've been teaching martial arts for many, many years, and one evening I was actually at the gym teaching martial arts. My wife Linda had gone out for a walk with the kids. She was actually pushing my son in his wheelchair at the time. They were on the sidewalk and a drunk driver jumped the curb. Linda turned her back on the oncoming vehicle to try to protect our son, but she was hit, dragged and killed. My son was hospitalized. He was in intensive care for a month. He was in a coma for 11 days. So basically, in the blink of an eye, mine and my children's lives changed irreversibly, you know.
And so this encouraged you to go after your dreams and your, you know, because you realized that life can be taken from you so quickly.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, me and Linda had been together a very long time. You know, we met when we were kids, and she was my first true love. We were together a total of 26 years. We were married for nearly 21, and as I say, she was my best friend. It was a huge learning curve for me because we'd had a very traditional marriage. You know, I had the easy job. I just went out, earned the money, paid the bills. Linda had the hard job. I mean, she would stay at home, look after me and the kids and the house. So of course, when she was taken from us, it was a big learning curve for me. However, being a single parent, quitting was never an option. So irrespective of how difficult I found it, you know, I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, hoping that I was on the right path until it became the norm. It took us a couple of years to get over the worst of the grief and the loss, and that after those first initial years, that is when I came to realize the fragility of life, you know, that life can be taken in the blink of an eye. And as I said, you know, if you've got a dream, you've got to chase it. You know, there's nothing worse than living with regret. None of us want to be on our deathbed thinking, I wish I had, or I wonder if I could have, or whatever. You know, if you try and fail, at least you've tried. If you try and succeed, then it was worth trying.
Absolutely. And now you're working on Hell on Wheels, which is a very big production with AMC.
Yep.
So can you describe what that's like to be on the series as Paddy Quinn?
A dream come true. It really is a dream come true. The irony is, when I went for the role, Paddy Quinn was supposed to be a throwaway character. I was supposed to be in like 1 or 2 scenes in one episode, and that was it. I was supposed to be gone. Fortunately, when I had the callback audition, Neil LaBute, one of the directors, was in on the callback audition. He must have seen something he liked, because a few days later I get a phone call from my agent saying, holy cow, they've written you in as a recurring character. Now the thing is, I mean, like, it's an ensemble piece, so even though my character is relatively small compared to the main characters, but it is still a recurring role. It seems that people are noticing me for whatever reason, you know, whether they love Paddy or hate Paddy, or whether I've got a certain look and they notice me, I don't know, but people are noticing me. I think the powers that be are pleased with the job I'm doing, because now, as I say, bearing in mind I was only meant to be in 1 episode, I ended up being in 5 episodes of season 3. I've done 4 episodes in season 4, and Paddy is still alive and kicking, so hopefully you'll see more of him in season 5.
Talking about season 3, you were rolling around in the mud. Can you talk about that?
Episode 6, One Less Mule, the very opening scene, or it's virtually the opening scene, myself and one of the other characters have a little fight. We have a little roll around. The funny thing is, because I've been teaching martial arts for so long, there's quite a few of my friends who were saying to me afterwards, why didn't you put him in a choke, and why didn't you put him in an armbar and stuff? And I'm saying, you know what, I do what I'm told to do. But yeah, that was fun. It was only a small little fight scene. And I once worked on an independent movie a few years ago, a zombie movie called The Dead Mile, and I was one of the main character actors, and also because of my martial arts background, I doubled up as the stunt coordinator. So I mean, I'm always up for fight scenes. I mean, I find it fun because, of course, I was competing in kickboxing and jiu-jitsu circuits for many, many years. And I'm just sad that that scene in episode 6 where I'm rolling around in the mud was such a small scene. I would have loved to continue it.
Absolutely. So right now, season 4 is going on. Can you give us a little bit of a hint of what's happening?
No. We do all sign disclaimers. You know, we're not allowed to give away any of the plots at all. We can't even issue, you know, we can't post things on Facebook unless it's after the episode has gone out. You know, anything that is ongoing right now, anything coming up in the future, you're all going to have to tune in and watch the show. What's
the future for you? Is it Hell on Wheels for as long as it goes on, hopefully, or what else do you have in store?
Hell on Wheels has been my first major acting role. Now, when I say major acting role, I'm not necessarily saying the size of the role, but I mean how substantial the show is. I heard a statistic the other day that Hell on Wheels is now seen in over 20 countries by over 47 million people. So that's quite substantial. So therefore, and of course, like, it's Hell on Wheels that kind of gave me my first big break. Even though it wasn't my first acting role, it is the biggest thing I've been in to date. So as long as they want me on the show, I am more than happy to remain with the show. I do envisage myself getting other roles in other projects, in other productions, in other TV films, movies, TV shows. The dream is to continue acting for as long as I'm able to.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about Paddy Quinn. What kind of character dynamics?
The very, very first time you see Paddy Quinn is in the episode Searchers, which is episode 5, season 3. The very first time you see him, I think the audience probably thought he is a thoughtless, heartless, horrible person because of my attitude. And if you're not familiar with that episode, you'll have to look it up. You can see it on AMC.com, or you can get the DVDs. But basically, I think Paddy is salt of the earth. I think he's an honest guy. He doesn't care what he says to anyone. You know, he'll stick up for his family and his friends, and he's just there to work. You know, he wants to get the railroad to where the railroad's got to be, and he doesn't care about the weather or about any other concerns. He's there to build that railroad. So he's single-minded. However, he will always back up those he has respect for.
So my last question, what is some advice you can give to people who may be afraid to chase their dreams?
You know, there's a very good book. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. The thing is, we all have a comfort bubble. You know, we all have our comfort zone, and we never step out of that comfort zone because of fear. However, we only grow when we step out of that comfort zone. You know, when we step outside that bubble and experience things or try things that we haven't tried or experienced before, that is when we gain experience. That is when we grow as people, as human beings. My advice would be, don't waste your time wishing. You know, try it. As I say, if you try and fail, then at least you tried. If you never try at all, you will never ever know. So as I say, what I did was, I didn't want to be on my deathbed with any regrets about this. You know, I always wanted to act. I'd never had the inclination or the courage to chase it until I went through a tragedy. And what I would say is, if you've got a dream, I don't want anyone else to have to go through a tragedy before they realize that dream. You know, if you've got a dream, you can somehow make it work. You know, even if it means holding down 2 part-time jobs whilst you're chasing your dream, you can make it work. All you've got to do is have the courage to do it. A very well-known philosopher said, people rarely fail, they merely give up trying. So I'm not going to give up trying. You know, I'm going to keep going until such time as I have achieved the height that I hope to achieve.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming into the studio today. Make sure you check out Kevin Davey as Paddy Quinn on Hell on Wheels.